G'day, Brian. Thanks for joining AM.
Pleasure, Sabra.
Interest rates could go up next year following the hotter-than-expected inflation reading yesterday. Several economists are now changing their forecast to say the bank will probably lift rates next. What particular policy decision would you make right now if you were Treasurer to take that pressure off to stop that from happening?
Sabra, the first decision I would make would be to introduce quantifiable fiscal rules for the budget. So ever since Peter Costello... let me explain what that is. Ever since Peter Costello introduced a Charter of Budget Honesty, Treasurers have had rules to contain their spending until Jim Chalmers became Treasurer. So he's the first Treasurer of Australia since Costello without any rules to control government spending. Now, government spending is running about 4 times faster than the economy itself. And the more money the government pours into the economy, it competes with households and businesses, and it drives prices up. Prices go up, inflation goes up, and then the Reserve Bank says, well, you know what, inflation's too high, we can't cut interest rates.
No.
So what's the first thing for the government to do? It has to stop its spending spree. How do you do that? You introduce these rules.
But what would you cut?
Well, it's not so much about cutting immediately.
Really?
Because the key thing for government is if you want to introduce a new measure, you want to spend more money, that's okay because you're the government. You can make your own decisions. However, you have a responsibility to find room in the budget to do it, so offsets. So if you want to spend more money over here, well, you've got to find savings over there. And that's the responsibility of the government. This government hasn't done that. It hasn't found savings.
But you're still not saying what you would do.
I introduce quantifiable fiscal rules. If you want to talk about
but actually where you would cut.
Well, if you want to talk about, again, it's about finding offsets. If I had to find an offset today, I would go immediately to the government's fringe benefits tax carve-outs for electric vehicles. It's costing about 5 times more than what the government estimated, and it is unfair. It means the more money you are on as an Australian, the more subsidies you get for renting an electric vehicle. That's unfair, it's inequitable, it's a highly inefficient way to reduce carbon emissions, and unfortunately it leaves Australians who can't afford an EV subsidising those who can. There's an example of something that should be scrapped.
In showing fiscal restraint, is delivering cost of living help to families, which tend to be a voting bloc in marginal seats, is that really in the best interests of the nation's future generations?
There's no problem providing assistance where people are in dire need, but when it camouflages the problem and it gives the government an excuse not to act on the root cause, and in this case it is a failing energy policy, then there is a problem with that. Unfortunately, that is what's happened with the Albanese government.
There are many complex things that are going into our energy grid and transformation at the moment.
But they're doing it the wrong way, Sabra, and that's my argument. I mean, if you look at the last term of the coalition government, we got emissions down. The first term of the Albanese government, they did not get emissions down. The last term of the coalition government, we got prices of electricity down by 10%. The first term of the Albanese government, they got electricity prices up by 40%.
Voters haven't given you credit for that. In fact, the voters at the last election looked at the coalition, and according to the ANU analysis that was done yesterday, they now regard the coalition as not the best place entity to manage the economy anymore. The ANU professor Ian McAllister says you really have to build up an area of your policy strength, and once you lose that, it's very difficult to get it back. How are you going to win back the trust of people that you are economically capable?
Sabra, I think a couple of things. Firstly, it is definitely engaging with the Australian people on where their key problems lie. And right now, it is cost of living. And it's explaining to people what's happening. So the average taxpayer is paying an additional $5,000 in personal income tax today compared to only a few years ago under the coalition. Christmas is only, 28 days away. What would the average worker do with an extra $5,000 in his or her pocket? These are the impacts of poor economic management under the Labor government. So that's one part of the equation for us.
And the government might point out it would have been less than that had the coalition had its way and blocked the tax cuts for Australian income earners?
Well, no, that's not the case, because the problem with what the government has done is because it has just driven up inflation. You have seen personal income taxes go up because, as wages go up to keep up with inflation, people enter higher tax brackets, they pay more tax. And this is why, under a coalition government, taxes are always lower, simpler and fairer, and that's always been the case historically. But, going to your original point, there's no doubt we have work to do, and that's why I'm talking to you this morning. It's why I was out and about yesterday, and I'll be out and about today. The Australian people are hurting. It's not so much about the coalition's, reputation. This is about the Australian people, and that is where we are focused. We are squarely focused on the Australian people.
Ted O'Brien, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Sabra.
Thank you.